Reverend Oakman? Yes.
Yeah.
This is Reverend Frank Oakman from First Methodist Church, who's going to give our prayer this morning. And we don't have to read the disclaimer because it's posted on the front door.
Let us pray. Holy God, thank you for the many blessings that our local community has. I pray for those who are in the office that govern this community and county, and that they make wise and godly decisions which are always in the best interest of the community. I pray for those this morning to be blessed by you. I pray for our law enforcement, protect them in their line of duty so that they might protect those of us who have placed our trust in them. Bless these men and women in our city government and our county, the mayor's office, the commission, and all elected officials, and certainly those who put themselves in harm's way. I pray for Brian Roberts, Bill Gray's son, this morning. Pray for a hand of healing upon his life with his surgery. Pray for all of us who struggle during this past week with the news in Las Vegas and everything going on. Pray that we can be joy to those we encounter. We pray this in Jesus' precious name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you very much. Call this meeting to order. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes?
I move there they be approved as presented.
I'll second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes. And Mr. Corley is on vacation. Sheriff Laughlin?
All right. I have several things. I'll start out with 144s. The first thing, we hired a road deputy 2 weeks ago. The merit board appointed Justin Gray. I accepted the recommendation. Justin's a jail officer, has been at the department for a few years, left us once for another job but came back. Does a great job, has an associate's degree from Vincennes, and we're excited to get him started. He'll be going to the ILEA Academy in 2 weeks for his physical, and the week after he will start his actual training. So he will graduate in February and come back to us, and he'll do some FTO and things like that before we just turn him loose. But we got him out learning the county roads right now, serving papers. So, but I just need your approval to put Justin Gray into the position, move from jail officer to road deputy.
Question, John?
Yes, sir.
In reference to that, we have talked in the past a little bit about a employment contract
Yes.
with these road deputies.
Yeah, I've talked to Colin about that, and Justin is more than willing to sign. Our initial thing was 3 years. He's saying I'll sign 5, 10. He's really excited for the new job. So I'm going to get with Colin. We will get that signed with Justin this week. Still trying to figure out. I have 5 different copies from different sheriffs, so trying to figure out from our end which fits the best.
Okay.
So yeah.
So your intent is this will be our first road deputy under that contract?
Yes, he was asked by the merit board in that if he'd be willing to sign a contract, and there is a verbal commitment on his behalf. So we will get that written up with Colin and get him to sign that ASAP.
Under those pretense, then I would make a motion to approve the 144 request.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
3 ayes.
Thank you. With doing that, that leaves a jail officer position open with his movement, and we decided to hire Derek Moore. Derek had a very good interview and has been we actually had several good interviews, so we have a good list. When another position comes available, hopefully they're still available, but Derek Moore will be the person to take Justin Gray's spot with your approval.
I'd also make a motion to approve Derek's Moore's 144.
Seconded.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 3
Bill,
ayes.
spell Derek.
D-E-R-E-K.
Okay.
Yep.
There's like 10 different ways. to spell
Oh yeah, I know. I hope I got it right. That's what I was giving my secretary. We'll see if
10
it's
ways to
right.
spell Laughlin too.
Yeah. I'll text you later. Okay, and also, unfortunately, last week we were given a 2-week notice by one of our female jail officers, Mary Prophet. Mary has accepted a position with the Rush County Sheriff's Department in their jail. It is better pay. Mary's one of our corporals, does a fantastic job. Sorry to see her go, but excited for her for the opportunity. She's excited. So we have a former jail officer over there that I know she's friends with. She's actually moved to that community as well. So we will be interviewing probably early next week for female jail officers to take her position. So just need a pending approval if you guys are okay with me moving forward with that to get somebody in that position.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
How much better pay is it?
Couple $1,000. Yeah, I mean it's yeah.
It's worth moving for.
Yeah, and she's already living there, so I think the drive obviously is a little better, and it stinks. Mary's been a great employee. She does a good job. She leads our day shift. It stinks, but it's hard to compete. We're paying $24.5. It just is what it is. So I think starting over there, I think is 28. I think. Don't hold me to that, but but we'll find somebody and things move on. So they'll hire somebody to replace me someday, and hopefully they're better than me. And I don't mean that bad. I just hope it always gets better. Next thing I have spoke to you guys personally. It was in the newspaper Sunday that we are going to accept donations for Breast Cancer Awareness Month for lockouts. That started Sunday. We received a few. We've already had a few lockouts, and I had a few people just walk up and hand me money. That is in our little pink donation jug. So, and the deputies just love carrying those around. So, but everybody is sympathetic to what we're doing, and they're jokingly about all the pink that they're having to wear and have around, but everybody's excited to do it and hoping we raise a bunch of money. So, and the jail officers also, I don't know if that was noted in the story in the paper, they'll be wearing pink shirts in the jail. So pink or black. Most, I would say, will probably wear black, but we'll have both in there. So just something kind of fun for a good cause that we'll be doing in October. Diana writes here, and we got a few things. First thing, Diana had found, she's trying to help us with this canine. Diana had found some money that was left in accounts for quite some time. One of those is the DARE Fund. Billy Wason and Craig Pennington used to teach DARE. They had raised about $5,000 that was in this account, and it's probably been there for 10, 12 years probably. I spoke to Craig the other day about that. Craig said a lot of those were just small donations that had been put into that account. I spoke to Jane about it to check and make sure everything was kosher with State Board of Accounts. Craig is okay with it. Billy is okay with it. We are asking if we would be able to use those funds. Now I'll approach council too, but if we would be able to use those funds to purchase our canine. We're about $5,000 along for a canine right now. That's through a grant through the United Way and the Drug Coalition. So that leaves us, that gets us about 2/3 of the way there. With this $5,000, it's set dormant for years. It'll continue to sit there if we don't use it. My hope is that you guys will let us use it, and the council will be okay with that as well.
Joe, how much is the dog altogether?
With training and everything, what's our quote?
Approximately 16,000 is what we have quoted.
That's
One
through
thing
Bob.
I haven't got to tell Joe yet, I received an email from Duke Energy this morning they agreed to give us $1,000 towards
Yeah.
the purchase of the
You
dog
texted
as
me
well.
last week. Yeah, so-
But I got final approval.
Got a
this
final
morning.
approval,
Yeah,
okay.
final approval. this
Confirmation,
morning.
so-
Confirmation this morning, so.
So, and that's through Von Lick Kennels. That's who we've went through in the past with our dogs. Always had good rapport with them. Leonard Baker was our canine handler for years. The Jinx is retired now, but Leonard's who I kind of turned to for that, and that's who he recommended we go through. So $16,000, that's training and everything. Kyle McMurray is the officer that we've chosen to do that. So we're hoping to have him in there by February. When Justin gets out, we can get Justin FTO'd for a month or so and get Kyle up there and get him training with that dog. So, but $5,000 that we don't have to.
The
go out and try to raise.
$16,000 includes a 3-week training for the dog and the officer, plus the purchase of the dog. So it sounds like a lot of money for just a dog, but there's a lot more to it than that.
There is. Jane, what do you need from us to,
I think just your blessing that he can use those funds.
just a motion
Transfer the
to?
funds.
I think so.
Okay, all right. I'd make a motion that we make a recommendation to the council for that appropriation. Is that,
Sounds good.
that,
Yeah.
to allow them to appropriate this money for the purchase, to go towards the purchase of a canine?
I'll second the motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
3 ayes.
All right, and the last thing, I'm gonna let Diane talk mostly about this. We are trying to get a grant for body scanner for the jail and for community corrections. Michelle and I, and we've been working on this for probably 2 months. So she needs to inform you guys about some of the particulars of that.
The Justice Assistance Grant, what they refer to as JAG, the Edward D. Byrne, it's a grant that's available for technology upgrades, which would definitely fall into this category. And our main focus is going to be on this is officer safety. The body scanner allows, as they bring somebody in, they'll run it through. It kind of works as like an x-ray machine is the best way I can describe it. We chose one that allows one person to go through that machine 1,000 times a year safely, and they get less radiation than we do on a daily average just through the air. So it's very safe. There's zero match to this. Now that doesn't mean that they may award us at 75, 80% or something and come back and say, hey, we'll give you this much, you have to come back with the rest. They did that with our 800 megahertz radios that we did. Joey's going to be sharing this piece of equipment with community corrections, so it's going to be a dual purpose.
Housing it is an issue right now that we're trying to come up with where we're going to keep it. There's no room in the jail other than the Sally Port, which we have to keep open for people, officers bringing prisoners in. We had evidence tied up in the Sally Port last week. So we're still trying to figure that out, logistics of where it's going to go. The reason for the 1,000 exposures a year is community corrections. Their work release are coming in every day. If we have somebody coming into the jail 1,000 times a year, something's wrong. So it will be community corrections is the reason for the high exposure rate. But and we will figure it out. Michelle says she can make it work if she has to put it over there. It will. Officers will have to take them possibly to another location, but we're so close to each other that they may have to stop in there, get them scanned, and then bring them to jail. But potential curbing of litigation of anything, any incidents that take place with somebody bringing a weapon or narcotics into our jail, that's our main focus, is to stop and curtail all that from happening. I've seen a gun come into the jail in somebody's boot probably 13, 14 years ago, and that was a pretty scary situation. It was another agency that brought somebody in. We don't want that to happen, obviously, so, and something like this will prevent that.
So this unit's going to be too large to be in the booking area?
There's just not if as big as this unit is, there won't be room back there.
Okay.
So we can potentially move some things around, but for Michelle, if they can bring their people over, we're still working on where it's going to go. So, and Michelle's, she's out this week. We still have some, she'll be back tomorrow. we got some more things to work out with that, so where we're gonna put it, but we'll make it work, we'll put it somewhere.
Also, Joey, while we're talking about technology upgrades, we talked about the issue with the cameras, the video capabilities in the booking room.
Yes.
Are we addressing that issue, or is the
Yeah, some of the
is that
quotes.
grant money?
That's not what.
Is that grant available for that kind of work too? I mean, could
Yeah,
we?
It would, of course, you know, from our community, we only want to do one thing at a, you know, because they
Right.
compete against each other, and we
Right.
definitely don't want that, but.
Some of the quotes we got for the camera system were, I had in passing mentioned to, I think, maybe Mrs. King about how high they were, and they were higher than we were expecting.
For
some-
just that booking?
Yeah, well, just
For right now?
Yeah. So this to me, in light of what's happened, this takes precedent to me, just to as a preventative measure. And Michelle has the same issues over there. They have stuff that comes in they don't want coming in their jail, and anything you can do to stop your trafficking. And I'm not going to say, I never say never, that it'll stop at 100%, but it should cut it down next to nothing, I would think, if everybody's paying attention and watching those screens. So it's a nice piece of equipment. Hopefully it's funded 100%. But like she said, the 800s weren't. But I mean, what was our percentage? Was
Minimal, yeah, minimal. And we'd be looking at it, it's about approximately $150,000 for this piece of equipment.
How quickly will we know the results of the application?
That I don't know right offhand. The
Could it be a
applications,
purchase yet this year?
it would probably be a purchase like January, February
Okay.
is what I would assume. That's what we did before. You know, of course, the application's due October 20th. So, you know, that doesn't give us a much leeway time in between. It just came open last week. So Joey and I jumped on it right away and look at several different model types. And
There's some that have higher resolution, but you can scan them less. This one's right. It's the median one. It's the one that you can scan them 1,000 times and the resolution's good. You can see, well, it's not the top model where you see, you know, I mean, so.
those were about 225,000.
Yeah,
So
yeah, and you can only scan them
50 times a year.
50 times a year.
Yeah.
Work release, that's not going to work. That's
No.
going to burn out in 2 months. So.
Okay. Do you need a motion from the commissioner?
We just
to
need
proceed?
permission to be able to move forward with the grant application.
So moved, Jane.
I'll make a motion to,
Okay. You seconded?
I'll second it. Thank you.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
3 ayes.
Thank you.
Thank
Very
you.
good.
See you guys at 11.
Mr. King?
Morning.
Good morning.
Joey glanced back at me for the cameras. I want to say one of the quotes that we got to replace all the cameras at the jail in the system, I think it was what, 280,000 was one of them. So we're still looking at as far as trying to get something that will not give a whole, you know, take away the whole purpose of the jail by being able to have people in there to afford the cameras. We either have to get rid of the prisoners or the workers, something to be able to afford that. So first thing on I've got a couple things. First thing, I've got some printing calculators that were in the treasurer's office. I mean, they run about $80 to $130 a piece. They're dead. I just want to dispose of them. I just want to get permission to do that. I don't think, I can't even find out. One of them, it sounds like a motor's bad in the printing part of it, so it won't work at all. The other two, the buttons aren't working. I can't really get parts for those. So I don't really see that it's worth messing with, and each one of them is probably over 10 years old. So I just want to make sure that's copacetic just to get rid of those. So.
Yeah, I don't see a problem, do you?
do you need a motion for that?
I don't even think I really need a motion. I just wanted to make sure that it's kosher with everybody.
Junk is junk.
Yeah. And those last so long. I mean, I actually think one of them is probably 15 to 20 years old. I mean, some of them last forever with how much we use them. So I went ahead and ordered another one and got it replaced. I put my report in front of all of you. 297 emails for the month. Almost 71,000 were let through, so we had less spam this month. We still had a lot of hacking attempts through the email. I actually blocked 256 million IP addresses from the system. Pretty much, if anybody decides to go to China, they're not going to be able to log into their email. Because I mean, we can still get email from those places, just they can't log in. That's the problem. It took our bad login attempts the last 2 weeks down from anywhere from 400 to 600 a day to the actual realistic ones, like 30, where somebody forgot their email, their password, they typed it in wrong. Joey didn't change his password again, you know, those kind of things. So that has helped blocking those various accounts, to those logins, and I'll add more as I need, but I just block them in whole areas. So, but that has cut down on the traffic and people getting locked out. Jane hasn't called me in 2 weeks for getting locked out, so that's always a plus. Because usually when she calls me when she's locked out, she's got somebody in her office trying to look up an email for whatever they're talking about, and it's not working.
It always happens when you read it most.
You can see the number of tickets there. Last month was 248, this month's 226, so kind of staying in the same area. That hasn't much changed. Pretty much the same kind of research things going on. I'm still trying to get into the old mail archive. The current software that I've been testing out for the mail archive currently has 340 some odd thousand emails on it already. That's just since April. So, and then one thing I would like to have considered, this isn't necessarily a agree with right now kind of thing. This is more of a policy thing that I would like to have considered. Looking through the IT portion of the employee handbook does not say anything about email usage. What I would like to do is make the usage of the county email server as the mandatory for any kind of county business. In the past, we were limited to how many accounts we could have based upon the server size and everything. So people would set up Gmail accounts or that kind of thing to use for county business. And I would like to, and this again just for consideration for when the handbook is updated, or if you guys want me to send out an email saying that's required, to use county email server for county business. One is because it gets archived and it all goes through there. And that way it's not going through a Gmail account. It says, if it's from the county, it says co.fayette, or in the case of Diana Wright, it says connersvillein.gov, rather than gmail.com or whatever the person signed up with. It also is something that if it's on the county server and an employee leaves, or there's questions about something, we can log in and still have access to it. It doesn't just disappear because we don't have the password. So that was just something that came up in the last week at another place where it made the news because this employee still had set up a Gmail for their work usage and basically got a whole bunch of stuff into stuff they weren't supposed to because they still had access. Basically had reissued passwords for things, you know, pulled the reset password, and they also ordered a couple iPads. And I don't think anybody's going to do something like that, but it kind of brought it to mind that we don't have anything in the handbook to set that as a policy. So, final thing that I wanted to bring to the attention of commissioners and really the public too is the Equifax breach that I've been emailing everybody about. new news yesterday was they found another 2.5 million Americans that were supposedly part of the breach. That brings the total up to 145 million supposedly. Given the amount of data and what they have at Equifax for all of us, I would almost say that to consider all of us compromised. Just because they've said 145 million, I don't trust them because they keep coming up with these new excuses. So just one of those things, everybody keep a watch on their credit and all that kind of stuff, because I'm trying to keep watching the systems here and trying to keep people out, but that data is already out there for a lot of people. So just don't assume that just because they said you weren't part of it before that you weren't actually part of it. So, any questions or anything for me?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Warren? Mr. Sudoff, County Surveyor.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
I have here two change orders, not two change orders. Change order number 2 for the Everton Road and Waterloo Road. They completed the patching on Everton Road and only added $1,200 for that work. So I've included in the change order 2.
So that makes the change order total then between the two change orders?
Well, the other change order was for time extension.
Okay.
Which
we approved that though.
You
didn't
approved that. It
we?
was.
But
It
there
worked
were
out
some
okay.
material changes
This is for
that we
the cost
chose,
of materials, extra work.
we chose not to approve one of them.
Yeah, the change
Until-
order 2, because they hadn't finished the patching. And
Yes.
So it's been done, the patching, and I have 2 copies here, one for us and one for the
And the bottom line was only $1,200 then?
the extra patching cost. They said it was one truck, 20 tons. It
Okay.
was $60 a ton approximately.
All right.
So that would be that's a total of $45,341.21 extra, but we're still way below the total funds for the project.
The original bid was less than what we
Yeah, it was a
had been
good bid.
approved
It
on our
was-
community crossings.
It was 100,000 less than,
Diana? Will we, I apologize for putting you on the spot for this, but will that money left over, will it roll?
It does not roll in our fund. have to write a check back to the state for that amount. It goes in the big pot to roll for next year.
Okay. So, but we could apply for some of that as an addendum to
No.
next year's?
No.
Okay. Okay.
This is all still covered on what we received last year,
Yeah.
because our bid was
Right,
less than
yeah.
what they approved for us for the community.
Could we
crossing
add to the project?
No.
Okay.
okay, well, here's the change order, I guess for you to sign later, get back to me.
Okay.
I'd make a motion that we approve the change order number 2 with Milestone.
Oh, second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
3 ayes.
I talked with an engineer from Verizon or Frontier Communications, and they said that they had 2 permits they wanted to revise that you had approved in May. Did you get those revisions?
I received a couple of emails from them about them, and I haven't responded.
Okay, well, they wanted me to present it to you because they had been trying to talk to Richard about it, and I talked to Angela, and she said she'd send it to your office.
Yes, she forwarded it to me.
Okay, so you're not gonna you haven't looked it over or the revisions?
Yes.
Do you want me to give you?
I didn't know what the revisions were. I didn't understand where they had initially asked to place these.
Well, I'll give you what the engineer sent me.
Do
And
we know what, I don't know what we approved initially. Do you know?
I got
where
the
they're
copy
changing?
of the signed permit for last May here with this information she said. And I tried to get Richard, of course, he's on vacation.
Yes.
So, so I have this information. I said I'd give it to you for your, look it over. And I guess I'll have
Has the work
her
already
talk.
been done?
It was revised, or she's asking for a revision, and I've got some plans here with these, and the original permits, and then the new one she's asking for. I think they're putting up new pedestals, control on 50 West below 425 South, or they're east of Old Town, and the other one's out on Columbia Road. So I'll just give it to you to look
Okay.
over and get back with her. This all started when I was trying to work on tree removal on Bridge 25, and there's some overhead cables that need to be moved, and so she asked me what my position was. I had brought,
If you could twist a couple arms.
yeah, well, or ask you to hurry it up, or do it as fast as you can, I guess.
Yeah.
Well,
That-
have you, Warren, have you looked at the changes and does it work with our highway system? I mean, let's get it passed if I'm okayed.
I really
leave
didn't
it up
look.
to you and Richard to make those analysis for us.
I really didn't go out and look at them each site, and I don't know what.
I didn't
Okay,
understand why they had changed them, and we had already approved these others, and I didn't see that it said where they had been approved for this first time.
Yeah. Well, this happened Friday. I think that she emailed all this information, and of course, the highway department was closed, and then come find out Monday that Richard was gone, so I didn't go out and look at them on the site, so I don't know the differences myself. So maybe we go out and look at them, or I'll have to go and look at them.
Okay.
That's all I have for now. Unless there's something else.
Okay.
Authority to sign them once Warren checks off on it. I'd make a motion, Madam President, that we give you the authority to sign off on them once Warren inspects the changes
Okay.
and approves of the changes. And then you can sign off on
Okay.
once he,
Okay.
that way we can get
It
them done.
requires 3 signatures.
All 3 signatures.
Yeah, it does. But
Antoine.
maybe you'd sign off and then she'd be the.
Yeah, she'd be the deciding.
Later.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. that I have the authority to finish putting the final signature on these if we approve them after they've been checked out. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
3 ayes.
That way this doesn't have to wait for 2 more weeks.
Yeah, she sounded pretty much in a hurry.
Because if this is the emails same emails that I got, that was 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Well, she sent them down to the highway department and they sent them up to your office.
Yeah, it came from the highway, I think. It was forwarded from the highway.
Yeah.
And you send them to all 3 of us.
I mean, we've got to keep that stuff moving.
Yeah. We said it expands the service for down that area for your internet and whatever, telephone. That's all I have then.
Thank you, Warren.
Warren,
Mm-hmm.
I had this on my desk and I'm assuming it's from you, corrections to the county road inventory?
Yeah, I'm working on that. Inventory, updating the inventory.
Uh-huh.
Uh,
Well, these roads that you have listed on here, they've not been part of our system? They've been taken care of privately, or
No,
we've been maintaining them?
they just didn't get upgraded, or
But we have been maintaining all these.
that's what I'm working on paperwork. You have to sign and say, like in Woodside Village and Village Creek Estates and Dun Grazing. I haven't found proof that the commissioners took over the road. So the state says if we get a present commissioners to sign off that we are maintaining them, they'll accept them into the inventory.
Okay, all right. And so you're still working on this then?
Yeah.
These haven't been turned in?
No, I need to have your signatures on some of the roads.
Will you have that ready for our next meeting then?
I'm hoping so, yeah.
Okay, all right.
That I get, Leona's been asking about it, so. All I see right now, we're gaining almost 2 miles of road. But they still had the bypass around the airport on the inventory, the Connersville Airport, and then a private airport down south. They had included it in the inventory. So, East Everton. So those should be taken off. So we were gaining right away we didn't have or roads. That's at the top, the very, very beginning. And then Ziegler Road, the AHAT is at Veterans Memorial Drive, and it's now Ziegler Road. The name was changed, and they didn't have that correct on the inventory. So there's some little things like that needs changed. And then several subdivision roads need to be added. So.
But this affects our funding.
Yeah, I've been told maybe 3,000 a mile, like per year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every little bit helps.
Yeah, and they are now, instead of going out and measuring the roads on the ground, they're doing all by aerial photography.
Okay.
So that's the way they do it, but we just have to submit all this documentation, and hopefully they get it added.
So Warren's in the process of trying to get them straightened out, take off what we don't own and add on what we do own and what we're taking care of.
Great.
Yeah.
It's been a tedious, long process. Okay. Diane, all right?
I've given Colin, sent all of you an email yesterday about the Fayette County Public Transit. We received the grant award for that, and we just need the grant agreement signed so that I can send it back to NDOT. The total project amount was a little over $500,000. We are awarded $280, I believe. The rest of it comes from user fees from the public transit itself.
And then our match.
Yes, yes. And we do need to, at some point, get something in writing. According to our audit, with the auditors, we don't go, the Fayette County Public Transit doesn't go through a state audit. They have to pay for a private audit each year. And they would like to see something in writing each year that says Fayette County agrees to give, and I think 13,000, is that what we're doing this year?
12 or 13.
Okay. They'd like to see that in some type of memorandum of understanding, some type of agreement for our audit at the transit.
Okay. So, you say we do or do not need a motion? Just a signature?
I don't know if it's been voted on before or not, you know?
It was voted on prior to
The application.
submitting the grant application.
Then it can probably just be signed. It's already been voted on, yeah.
Okay.
Signed by the president?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
I think Adrian's sitting back there. I don't know if he's got
I
anything.
see Adrian sitting in the corner.
Yeah, he's hiding back
You're
there.
not down here as to wanting to speak today. Is that correct or not?
Excuse me?
Mr. Ellis, would you like to come before the board, or you
Yes,
just,
please.
you sitting here as a witness today?
Both.
Okay.
Just a couple quick things. Gary, we talked about getting information out to the departments more and getting more involvement. Last time I gave you copies of the mass casualty plan, and I think unfortunately with what happened in Las Vegas, I want to get that out to all departments, get their input. And unfortunately, there's a mass casualty plan that follows that. Pray to God we never get there. But what happened in Las Vegas was sick. And I've got a friend out there and I haven't heard from him, so I'm hoping he's okay. Leo, I've got a list of the winners of the weather radios.
Okay.
And everything that came through that. That was a good turnout. We had a lot of participation. There were 43 total entries. We had 10 winners, so I've got those and I've emailed them.
Okay.
The other thing is Fresenius Kidney Care. This is a standard for them to be aligned with the office. This happens every year. This is their annual submission. Two of the nursing homes have approached me about an exercise. They have mandatory requirements to do this. So what I'd like to have permission to use meeting room in the courthouse to have a tabletop exercise with them. I'm in the middle of planning that now. It's kind of nice to work with all those people. The only other thing was work with the rodeo over the weekend, helping them out. That's a good time. Other than that, that's it.
All right. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Sign him up for bull riding.
I tried, the bulls wanted nothing to do with
And
it.
I want nothing to do with them. Thank you.
Question.
Yes, sir.
A month or so ago, we talked about the AEDs,
Yeah.
updating the batteries, and we approved that to get that done. Has that been done yet?
They're on back order.
Okay.
They're,
I didn't remember seeing the claim yet. That's
no,
why I
no,
asked.
the batteries are still good. I check them with the voltmeter. They're good.
Okay.
I'm just
But
kind of
you're
locked
prepared
into
to
one.
replace them when needed.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Hate that we're locked into one source, but that's the way it is. But, you know, they're good.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Jane, are we okay on the DLZ? I think we're up to date there.
I believe so.
Okay. Thank you.
If there are any other department heads that are not on the agenda specifically that would like to speak, now's your chance. Do we have any mail? Old business. We need volunteers for the cemetery board. We have an open slot for the cemetery board for the Pioneer Cemeteries. We're short one member on that board, and we also need volunteers that would like to help work in the cemeteries. The cemetery board is very good about helping train you as to what needs to be done and how to clean the stones and how to reset them if you need to. And just a public plea for assistance. If you know anyone that would like to be on that board and help and has a burden for taking care of our ancestors' resting place, why, let us know.
While we're talking about that, if you don't mind, what the committee that we set up to talk with the funeral home directors?
They've never met.
Okay. Do we need to do something different, or?
I think everything's at a standstill, so.
I need to talk to you. Need to call her and see cemetery boards participating.
Okay.
I want to.
Okay, all right. I was just wondering, because I got an email last week, I think, from somebody that seemed to be upset over something. I'm not sure what it is.
Because we haven't done anything,
I-
because they're going to.
I don't know.
Okay.
She didn't make herself very clear, and so that's what made me think, oh, we had that committee that we were going to talk about the use of the cemeteries. I don't even know where it progressed to.
It had not progressed at all.
Okay.
And we have the vet tech agreement.
Yeah, that was fine, but then yesterday I was speaking to you and you mentioned something about being over capacity if they get all their dogs back at one time.
Yes.
So if that's something you want me to look into, that'll take a little bit longer.
Okay.
Let's table it.
We're going to table that again because,
I'll move to table it. Vet tech.
I'll second the table, motion to
all in
table.
favor, say aye.
Aye. Another issue under old business, I would assume. We've been in the process of trying to find a new 911 director over the last 30 to 60 days, something like that. The 911 Advisory Board did meet, interviewed 5 candidates. They reduced that down to 2 recommendations to the commissioners. The commissioners met last night and interviewed those 2 candidates. And at this time, Madam President, I'd like to make a motion on an appointment of a new 911 director, if you don't mind.
I appreciate that very much, sir.
I'd like to make a motion that we appoint David Baker as our new 911 director, assistant EMS or EMA director. Let me get those letters right. He would be performing dual duties, assisting Adrian as his assistant, as well as being the director of the 911 center. And I'd like to make that appointment effective through July 1st of 19.
2019.
Yeah.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
3 ayes. David Baker's the new appointment for the 911 director.
And Jane, as far as official start date, he stated last night that he was open to anything.
Okay.
So let's make it convenient for the bookkeeping as far as payroll and whatnot.
Okay.
So
Get in touch with
what
them.
would you like? You want to check with Stephanie sometime before the end of the meeting, and then we'll put in the minutes what the official start date would actually
Okay.
be.
I mean, if you wanted them to start like at the end of a pay period, the
Yes.
last one just ended Saturday, so for 2 weeks
Okay.
from now.
Does that work for you, Jackie, to start at the end of this pay period? Okay. Thank you, Jackie. One thing that before she gets away.
Almost there.
Yeah, you almost snuck out.
the door.
911 is a very critical department. The dispatch center is very critical to our emergency services. It's very important to have a smooth transition if we do change leadership. And when this all began, when the commissioners had talked about not reappointing our past director, I went to Jackie and asked her if she would be interested in serving in that capacity for an interim basis until we could find a permanent director. And it was really astonishing because she never even hesitated to say, yeah, she would help us. And that was a great feat that she took on. And I greatly appreciated what she's done for us. She took on the politics, she took on everything, and with broad shoulders, and never backed down off of it, and she did a great job of covering that department for us. I don't think there was a break in emergency services whatsoever, getting dispatching done. And Jackie, I personally appreciate everything that you did
We all do.
Yes.
We all do.
for us.
We want to thank you very much because
So
to have had that department without a leader would have been, would not be a pretty sight. Thank you very much.
now with the addition with David Baker, I think we all feel, all three of us feel that that's going to be a great step in a positive direction. And we can take the 911 center and hopefully in the future, EMA, to a different plateau, a greater plateau for this community and this county. And I'm looking forward to what the future has to bring with David. He's excited about it, and I think he'll be a great addition to the county emergency services.
If I could say something, I've known David a long time, and I think a lot of him. I think, not to, when you make a choice one over somebody else, there's always a downside for the one that didn't make it. There's no downside here. They're great people. David and I have talked before this, and his attitude and approach to everything, I'm going to enjoy getting this transition going to where that time that he takes over. He knows there's a lot coming. I don't know what depth you talk to him about that part, but he knows there is a growth. There is a lot of education things going, but I have no doubt he's up for it, and I think he's going to be great for the county.
He's a very competent young man. We're very fortunate to have him to be willing to accept the position at the pay scale that we have.
Mm-hmm. I'd like to also take the opportunity to thank the other 4 applicants. They were,
yes,
all 5 of them were great applicants. It was a difficult decision, I think, for everyone. And I also appreciate the time and effort that the 911 Advisory Board put into getting us down to 2 candidates as well.
thank you to everybody that was concerned and involved.
Yeah.
Does he live
Are
out
there-
here?
He currently lives in,
Wanamaker.
there you go.
South of Indianapolis.
I know where it is.
And he is in the process of, he's got his house up for sale and he's in the process of moving to Connersville. So, and he does
said
have
he had
a,
already purchased one here.
he has a bid in on one.
I thought I'd just run over and get a picture of it today, but that's probably not gonna happen.
Probably not. I don't know. He has been working part-time for Community Corrections.
Yes.
Yeah, so
And I think he's supposed to be there tonight.
maybe there this evening, so maybe you might,
Third shift. He's
third,
a third shifter.
he's third shifter? Okay.
So he's asleep now.
Probably.
What was his prior experience? Go ahead.
He's was a city police officer?
Here?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Till, I forget what year he said he retired. Do you,
8 years
7?
ago. 8 years ago.
yeah.
He's been a minister in Indianapolis and has a lot of experience in a lot of different areas. Are there any patron concerns?
Yeah, new business.
I thought we did new business. We're working on old business.
Mr. Parker, you got anything you want to say?
The cemetery.
We need to announce the bid process for cemetery mowing contract is open, and will be continued till November 1st deadline for submitting bids for next year for 2018 for mowing for the pioneer cemeteries.
And do we have a date that we're gonna accept those bids to?
November 1st.
November 1st. They have to have them in the auditor's office by November 1st.
Yes.
Okay. And that'll be for a 1-year contract, or
Yes.
have we been doing it now?
We do it annual.
Okay, all right. I wasn't sure.
They can go to the auditor's office to pick up the bid packet.
I'll move to approve payroll claims.
Second?
Been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
3 ayes.
Did Dan, do you have anything today? No good news, huh?
Just a witness here today.
He's hiding.
Yeah. Is he hiding from the mayor today? Is that why he come over here?
You're welcome anytime.
Oh, we're recessed.
The quality care.
Yeah.
Okay.
Recess.
We're going to recess until 11 o'clock. We have an appointment with Quality Care, the company that's going to take over the medical and such jail. So we will recess till then, and see y'all later.
This is Lisa Scroggins from Quality Correctional Care. I know you guys had some questions about the contract and what's going on. I know the council seem to have more questions than anybody. But one of the things, Gary, you guys have talked about is trying to get a price and lock in a price for a certain amount of time. I know we talked about that, so she can fill you in on those particular options.
Actually, Joey, if you don't mind, the two of you, you were discussing this at the end of last year a little bit, and I sat in on one meeting that I think you were present maybe, but I really didn't hear the whole gist of the program. Do you
Okay.
mind giving
Not
us
at all.
a summation?
No, it's just us. May I sit here, or would you like me to
No,
go
you're,
with you?
I guess, do you want?
Do you need me?
Justin.
I can talk really loud.
It's fine.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I'm Lisa Scroggins. I own Quality Correctional Care. We are a managed inmate healthcare services company located out of Muncie, Indiana. Since I was here last, we have grown considerably. We're up to, I think, 54 counties in the state of Indiana, and there are only 91 jails, so we represent the vast majority of them. We focus on medical, mental, and addiction services kind of as a combination, knowing that we are never going to get to the root of the problems with our inmates. If 70% of them have an addiction or a mental disorder, and we're not addressing that also, we're never going to reduce recidivism. As we can tell by every single jail in the state is bursting at the seams right now. Part of that is the unfunded mandate from the state saying the jails will hold level 6s. And part of that simply is because we're incarcerating so many more people than we have historically. And we just can't build jails fast enough. So we've got to find creative ways to help these inmates find the help they need, so maybe those who choose to can learn to live a sober life and maybe not reoffend and come back to jail. So that's kind of the philosophy of the underlying goal. We do that by being kind of no nonsense. For those of you who've been around a while, I've been around for a long time, and I remember back when it was pretty commonplace for particularly homeless people to get arrested in the winter because they wanted someplace warm to go, or someone who needed new dentures or new glasses would get arrested to get those kinds of things done for them at taxpayers' expense. So we're pretty stringent. We try to mirror our practices very close to the Department of Corrections so that inmates understand what it's like, what medical is like incarcerated. And so if they go away, if they're in your jail and they get sentenced to the DOC and they go away to the DOC, but then they come back for a sentence modification hearing, many times inmates will come back to the county jail and feel like they're on a little mini vacation because they'll get drugs and so forth that they don't usually get in the DOC because jails are sometimes a little more lax. We try to discourage that. We want to make sure that we are being as consistent with the DOC as possible. So we require a lot of our inmates. Inmates are, they need to take some responsibility for their own health. So they're not going to just get everything they're asked for. They're going to have to show that they're, someone who's diabetic isn't going to be allowed to order $50 worth of candy and then come to us and say, fix my diabetes, that kind of thing. So we try to be a little more, hold them a little more responsible for, we'll advocate on their behalf, but they need to advocate on their behalf as well. So it's a philosophy that's worked well for us. I worked for county government for 14 years in Delaware County and managed the books and just saw money being spent in what I thought was not the most beneficial way to our taxpayers. So I started this company thinking that I could improve services and save money. And as I said, we don't do any advertising at all. It's all word of mouth, and we're in 54 counties across the state. So I feel like we do a good job actually watching out for your tax dollars, but still covering your back so that we're not going to prevent lawsuits from inmates, but we need to be able to defend lawsuits from inmates, and that's our goal, is to make sure that we're doing everything by the book so that we can have your back in the event an inmate sues.
So basically, your protocols follow DOC
Yes.
protocols then?
Yes, yes. Very closely. There's always an exception, but very closely.
Okay, all right. Does that run into a conflict with the sheriff? As far as...
It protects the sheriff.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the goal behind it, is to protect the sheriff.
Okay.
We want to be partners with the county. So, for example, Hospital 1269 is a good example. When those laws are coming through the pipelines, we keep track of them. And when that law was passed, we already had a plan in place to take that off the county's shoulders and roll it into medical. So we'll do your Medicare and HIP Healthy Indiana Plan applications for your inmates on behalf of the sheriff and you, so that when the inmates get out of jail, they just call an 800 number and they can get their insurance turned on, and maybe then they'll continue with their medical treatment and stay a little healthier. Another thing that we've seen come down the pike is the 1006 bill that is the mental health money. The state's giving counties grants for mental health, and the idea is to start mental health treatment at the end of an inmate's sentence and then transition them out into the community so they can continue in their treatment plan, whether it be addiction or actual mental health counseling services. So we put we knew the bill was coming, we knew it was about to be signed, so we put a plan in place, and we're doing medication-assisted treatment for drug addicts in several counties across the state. We do a lot of transitioning to local mental health. Our goal really is just to see what's in the pipeline and figure out a way to implement that in your county to make sure that you're in compliance with the law and you're giving the best services you can to the inmates to maybe keep them from coming back to jail so often. So we would provide your nurses, we'd provide your doctor, provide mental health treatment providers, and your Healthy Indiana Plan. The other administrative service we offer as part of the contract is we'll reprice all your off-site medical bills. The law says Medicare reimbursable plus 4%, so we have 2 Medicare billers on staff who go through each bill line by line, make sure you're being billed correctly, and negotiate it down as low as possible to save as much money as we can.
Okay. Currently, you've offered a 1-year contract?
Yes.
To us?
And I'm fine with multiple years. Really, it makes more sense for me. If I'm going to bring in a team and train everyone, I have a pretty big upfront financial investment in a county, so it benefits us more. One of the reasons we did 1 year is because the sheriff's term, his current term, ends at the end of next year, and some commissioners won't sign a contract that extends beyond the sheriff's term in office. I'm happy to if you're willing to.
Dale, do you see a problem going longer term than a 1-year contract, or from a legality standpoint, or?
Legally, no, but it's a whole lot like buying a used car. If you can excuse that term. I don't know. We appropriated enough money to pay for
next year's
services for a year. My main concern is, can we can we stay within those bounds with this contract? And if I could ask a question, where do we enter, at what point do we start paying, having a greater expense than what is spelled out in your contract?
Paid to us, you wouldn't. There are costs outside the scope of your contract that you would pay directly to other providers. You have a $15,000 medical pool in this contract proposal, which means the first $15,000 worth of off-site services bills will pay out of that pool. If you would have an inmate come in who needed an organ transplant or some major medical issue, obviously $15,000 isn't going to go very far, then those bills would be repriced to the reduced amount and come back to you to pay. Same thing is true of certain medications, HIV meds, Hep C meds. There are some medications that we're going to try really hard to find third-party payers to take care of those things, but they are excluded in your contract, so those bills should come back. Dentist is another bill that comes back to you. So you have $15,000 to pay those, I think, right? No, we said $15,000 over what you pay in our contract to cover those kinds of unexpected bills. But as far as, we don't do like a per diem. If your inmate population goes up, we wouldn't charge you more. The only way we would charge you more is if you chose to negotiate additional services. Let's say you got so big that 40 hours of nursing wasn't enough and the sheriff called me and said, hey, I want to put a weekend nurse on because of all the bookings we're doing the weekend. That would result in more cost to you, of course, because it's adding services beyond our contract. But actually, from a standpoint of our contract, everything's built in.
Okay, well, let me ask you this. On page 3 of this contract, off-site services. When off-site care, including hospital care and ambulance services, are required for a covered person, in the opinion of the treating physician and or QCC's medical director, QCC shall arrange for said care and shall be financially responsible for the cost of all approved medical care and or diagnostic testing up to an annual pool of $18,000. Now, Joey, do you realistically think that $18,000 would get us through a year on that matter? That's not very much money.
It'd be pretty tight.
It is.
And what happens then, once we breach that limit, the rest is ours.
Right. But with us renegotiating, you're paying about 22 cents on the dollar for medical bills. So you have to remember that you're getting that discounted rate that we're negotiating down for you. So $18,000 is pretty standard for a jail your size. Now, until this year, we never went over. But I will tell you that everyone's population is really, really high right now. And the acuity rate is high. These inmates are sicker. Are you seeing that? These inmates are sicker than they've been in the last 5 years. It's part of it is an aging process. You know, we have baby boomers getting older, included. And part of it is that these people have worn their bodies out with the drugs.
With their habits.
With their habits, exactly. So I would not negotiate a contract that I felt like we couldn't live within. I would have said to the sheriff, this is pretty tight, I don't think we can make this. You know, if at the end of the first quarter, and he'll get quarterly reports of where he stands, you know, we determine that that's not working, then we can revisit it. And I don't necessarily care if you don't pay me, that you want to keep that $18,000 and you pay all your own medical bills, I'm fine with that. Because what we use that money for, in a county where there's enough money in the pool that there's money left over, I can incentivize doctors. If you have someone who has a cut that needs stitched, I can pay a doctor to come in cheaper than you can send them out to the ER. But this isn't a big enough pool for me to have much money, if any, left over at the end of the year, so I can't really benefit my doctors from it anyway. So if you want to take that $18,000 off and pay all your medical bills, I'm fine with that. I don't have a problem with that at all. But that means then that your office person and your auditor, they're all going to handle all of these claims that we're handling on your behalf right now. So it would be labor intensive.
She had came in last year, like I'd said before, and took 2 of our bills and went through them and how they work with them. We just saved a couple $1,000s.
Just on 2.
Just through that. And so much in the off-site stuff, that's a big thing they do
they try to keep everything in-house. They do x-rays over there. A lot of stuff we're spending in transports, taking people, and that's daily, right? I mean, we're taking somebody to a different hospital. To Rushville. So, I mean, there's going to be savings that aren't just particularly there, but, you know, transports, officer, bringing in overtime, having somebody, we had to run somebody to options last week, and we had, our females were in, most of our females were in training, we had to bring somebody in, it was chaos, and that's not necessarily something that would be with this, but we're spending so much stuff we're doing with transports, off-site stuff, that they're going to cut down on a lot.
This 18,000, now, that doesn't cover scripts.
No, scripts are in my budget. I paid for your scripts.
So, under the contract, you'll pay for the
With
scripts?
the exception of HIV, hepatitis, rabies, and like organ transplant, anti-rejection medications.
Okay.
There's a list of a few.
So that contractual fee includes
Includes your pharmacy bill.
pharmacy bill? Okay.
And your medical supplies that are one-time use supplies. If you need to order a new blood pressure machine or something like that, and you use it multiple times, that would be a county expense. If it's a bandage or a syringe or something you use one time and throw away, we provide those.
And our scripts a month right now, David, what are we, $6,000, $7,000 a month in scripts at that time?
If we can get rid of the diabetics, our average is about 2,000.
But it has spiked. It has.
I've seen some.
It's gone up to
$7,000
a
a
We have
month.
5 diabetics.
Yeah.
They're
We're going to manage those things for you. We have one nurse practitioner whose job really is to always be looking at the formulary and the cost of medications and making recommendations to our other medical providers to make sure that we are being smart in the way, like, for example, I often say when I'm in these kinds of meetings that if I were the sheriff, I would be hard pressed to contract with a local doctor, because, not because local doctors aren't great, because they are, but these local doctors who see your inmates in their private practice and then see them in jail, the standard of care is different. And so in private practice, they may get an expensive prescription. In the jail, they're not going to, because when they're out on the road or out in their home, they have to be able to go to work and pay their bills and go to the grocery, and they don't have to do any of those things when they're in jail. You know, their life is taken care of for them. So the standards of they're called ADLs, the average daily living requirements, are much less in the jail setting.
All right. If we was to look at more than 1 year contract, what kind of clauses or pay clause, I mean, contractual amounts are you looking at?
Well, I don't know anything about your counties, but usually generally what we do is we do multiple years and we lock in at a price. And so we have never, in the 7 years I've been in business, raised our prices without increasing services. So anybody who's had the exact same pricing or exact same service they've had in 2011 is paying the exact same amount they're paying in 2017, unless they came back to me and said, hey Lisa, we need to add 6 hours of nursing, or we want mental health here once a week instead of once every other week, you know, something like that.
I see.
So we keep the prices down. The biggest expense we have outside of payroll is med malpractice insurance. And as an example, our rates went up 4 times, and this year they quadrupled, because the philosophy right now in federal court is to be sympathetic to inmates' lawsuits, and they want to, in federal court, they want to force mediation because they want to clear their dockets. They want to get these cases resolved and off the dockets so they don't go to actually court. And insurance companies know the trends in federal court, so they came back and they raised our rates, as I said, 4 times. We didn't pass any of that on to any of our clients. We ate that, and it was several $100,000.
So I assume you're in Delaware County?
We are not.
You are not?
No, I was married to the Delaware County Sheriff.
Okay.
And this is the end of his term. He passed away in office.
Oh,
And,
I'm sorry.
And so I am not in Delaware County. It would have been a conflict.
Okay. Are you in counties adjoining Fayette County?
We're in Wayne, We just met with Rush last week, to think about a map. We're in Franklin, Decatur, Switzerland, Wayne, Randolph, Hancock to the other side, Henry.
So you're here?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, you're in the neighborhood?
Oh, yeah, we're in your neighborhood.
Okay. All right. Do you have anything else, Joey? I mean,
No, I've been very impressed with Lisa. There was an email going around about quality with the sheriffs a week or two ago. Just, hey, what do you guys think? Who has them? Nothing negative at all. Everybody was, and that's just private between sheriffs. I mean, if there was something negative, I probably wouldn't, but everybody was super positive.
When
And said, please, yeah, if you get a chance to go with them, you should.
That was Owen County. We were pitching Owen County, and I had a sheriff call me and say, hey, Owen County's looking, because they just sent out this email. And so I met with that sheriff, who is, he doesn't mince words. He is a straight shooter. And I said, if you hear anything negative about us, I want to be the first phone call you make, because I want to get it fixed, whatever it is. And I met with him this week, and he said, I couldn't get anybody to say anything negative. And I am so proud of that. What a wonderful testimony.
Yeah. I kept looking through, I thought, oh, got something now.
your intent is to retain all of our current health staff?
Your nursing staff.
Yes.
Yes, that we will do whatever the sheriff wants us to do in that regard. That's what I always tell the sheriffs. If you're satisfied with your nursing staff, we will bring them on board and train them to our policies and our procedures, and we probably retain 60% of them that way. Some of them don't like, we expect a lot, we expect work, and some people just don't like that, and we'll lose some that way, but we always give it a chance, try our darndest. And then other sheriffs will say, hey, this hasn't really been working for me, and I'll say, don't worry about it, I'll be the bad guy, particularly if a sheriff has a re-election in him, he doesn't want to, deal with those kinds of things. So, and the sheriff has instructed me he'd like to keep his nurses, so we will make that happen.
And they'll become employees of you?
Yes.
So there's a savings
From a payroll standpoint.
from the payroll side. So has that been, Dale, did you guys look at that in the budget?
Yes.
Okay.
The value of this agreement is actually more money than what we're currently spending on the medical care of the jail, but there is certain peripheral advantages and benefits for the sheriff, which I certainly see to his benefit. So the question is, how much value do you want to place on that? How easy do you want to make life for the sheriff?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's a nice guy, but we don't want to put him on welfare for life.
If I could interject, there is some value to the commissioners as well, because the insurance premiums and the benefits usually come from the commissioner's budget, and you would not be paying those as well. So med malpractice insurance, we'd absorb that for you, that you're probably paying through your commissioner's budget.
It's about $30,000 approximately, how much it would increase with going with them. But like I said, the savings there, and I think we're going to see the savings in the billing. We're going to see savings in there, and then all these off-site doctor's visits. We're going to see a savings overall, I think, with going with them. It may not balance out to that 30, but there'll be a savings.
But didn't you say also, Joey, that maybe in you and I's conversation, that part of your personnel that has been doing the insurance work and some of that stuff, you're going to be able to get their
They'll
time.
be freed up for some other things.
For some other things that will help us in
Because it's my
other shortage
understanding
areas.
she's just going to write them a check and send them the check, and they do the
And
right.
we're going to take care of the rest of it.
So the medical billing and things like that, which Nancy, since we switched over, Nancy's in that position, she's done a phenomenal job. We just got $85,000 from DOC, I think yesterday or today, with how she's doing the billing with that. Medical billing, I know she's doing a better job. Probably nobody's going to do it as well as they do, because that's what they do, that's their expertise.
Well, from a DOC level 6 billing standpoint, we've been working with the DOC. Former Sheriff Carter came in as a commissioner January 1st, was appointed by the governor, and because he was a former sheriff, he kind of understands the plight of the sheriffs and what's going on there. So we've been able to work through, and now we've gotten it approved that pharmacy bills can be billed directly to the DOC for level 6s. So you don't have to pay it and wait on reimbursement anymore. Offsite services, the county still has to pay and wait on reimbursement. We're working on it, but we're not there yet. We're trying to get them to understand that third-party vendors could do that work for them. But what we will do is, when they do their per diem billing for anyone level 6 that they're holding, they'll send our office a copy of that, and then our staff will go through and match the dates of service for any of those inmates to the DOC dates, and if there's any of them that can be reimbursed to level 6, we'll send those to your staff to bill the next month to try to get reimbursed for it.
So we will still do the DOC billing,
Right.
reimbursement,
Yeah.
and
But as far
and
as
that money will come directly to the county, it won't go to you.
No, I have nothing in that except to give you the paperwork to help you reclaim your money.
But she'll have the medical billing taken away from her. But the actual DOC billing for housing them, she'll still do that.
Okay.
Well, she'll have to submit the medical
Right,
billing also.
right,
We'll
right.
do the work, but it won't accept it from us. It has to come from the sheriff.
But she won't be haggling on the phone with hospitals
Right.
about getting
Yeah.
No, we'll do that for
Medicaid
you.
rates.
So now, correct me if I'm wrong, but if a prisoner comes in with health insurance and they maintain that health insurance, that is, any of their health care is billed to that
Yes.
insurance?
Yes, we have an office staff. Well, the way it works is our nurses are issued iPads, and so when someone gets referred off-site to a doctor's visit or a hospital or whatever, they'll send a referral form through the iPad to our office staff. And our office staff will then run name, date of birth, social security number, to see if there's any third-party payer out there that's possibly could pick up that bill on behalf of the county. And we'll then reach out to the hospital and say, hey, bill Medicare, or bill Medicaid, or bill whomever. And then if someone is actually an inpatient, night or day, when someone is admitted as an inpatient, they call our Medicare billing specialist, and she calls the hospital, because the hospital has 24 hours to do an HP health presumptive hospital presumptive enrollment into Medicaid, because the law says if it's an inpatient stay, Healthy Indiana Plan will pay that bill, even if it's for an inmate. They won't pay outpatient stay. They will pay inpatient. So we do all of that for you, back office. As long as, if there's no nurse on, as long as your officers know to reach out to us, and it'll all be posted, and they take the time to reach out to us, we'll do our best to get any of those bills covered.
But those payments come to the county, or do they come to you?
No, the payment for the medical bill is paid by the state, never
Okay,
paid by the county.
but if it's done in-house, if your company does it in-house, and it is billable to their
Oh, it's
insurance
not.
carrier?
Not if it's in-house.
Okay, all
Not if
right.
it's in-house. It has to be off-site.
Okay, all right. That answered
With
that
the
question.
exception of pharmacy.
Okay.
And if it's, we'll have a pharmacy that will deliver to you, but we'll have a backup pharmacy, which is a local pharmacy. I'm not sure who you have, it's a 24-hour local pharmacy. But if there's insurance coverage, we can have that script called in, and one of the staff can go pick it up to bill that to the insurance directly.
Okay, if a situation happens after hours where they need health care, what will be the protocol for that care?
The officers will all be trained, and it's required through the Indiana Jail Standards to train them every year. We'll conduct that training, and we'll teach them exactly what to do in the event of an emergency. Of course, we're always going to say, when in doubt, if you think someone is in bad shape, call 911 and get them help right away, call us afterwards. But if it's something that you can call us first, again, we have the iPads. Telemedicine is allowed in jails. So if someone gets cut and your officers aren't sure, does this need stitched or not, they could actually put that person in front of the iPad video, and the doctor can take a look at it in the middle of the night and go, now put some butterflies on it, it'll be fine until we can get there tomorrow, or yeah, that probably needs to go out for some stitches. Now, if a medical staff is on site, they're going to know that, but if you don't have a nurse in the middle of the night, that is an option.
I mean, that's what I'm assuming we won't have nurses around the clock.
No, just 40 hours a week.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
So that's, we're available by phone, text, email, iPad, 24/7. Nurses, doctors, and mental health.
And I don't know if Lisa knows this yet, because I just found out last Friday.
Oh, gosh.
We got a grant through criminal justice, applied for a grant, and asked us to partner with them for a telemedicine grant for mental health services, off-site, psych stuff, and we got approved.
Good.
$560,000.
Wow.
Good job.
What are you going to use for that?
They
Tell us, like,
Centerstone.
Centerstone?
It's who they have
Okay.
had talk with. And that, with that, Sonia Carrico is our regional rep that comes to the Drug Coalition. She has to come to all the LLCs for meetings, and she'd ask, hey, would you guys be interested? I'm not sure we'll get it. Well, we got it. So we don't get all the $560,000, but we will get, and we're developing a plan of what we're going to do, but that'll probably go in our therapeutic communities. But that's something we'll probably have to integrate with them, maybe, possibly. They'll have iPads, they'll have access to iPads where they can meet with different providers to talk about issues, and trying to help them more along the lines of what she was saying, get them healthy when they get out here, get them off to the best start they can so they're not coming back.
The chances of it makes me clean and sober on the inside. So they don't have a choice but to get clean and sober on the inside. And the best way for them to succeed when they get out is if they've established a relationship with whoever is going to be their counselor on the outside. So 1006 money has just been changed. Now a 1006 provider can come in 60 days before release instead of 30 days before release, because the state has recognized the importance of building that relationship, the likelihood of them attending future meetings as if they've built that relationship. Telemed, telepsych is a very popular tool to use that, because it's very difficult. There aren't enough psych majors going on right now to fill the needs that we have in our state. I read an article recently that said in the next 5 years we're going to need something like 400, I don't want to misquote, several 100,000 more hours of psych services than we have bodies to fill those psych services in the pipeline right now to get those degrees, which is why my son-in-law's in school to become a psychologist right now, because you got to know your audience, you got to know where your needs are if you're going to make a living in this world. So, so anyway, the idea of telepsych is very common. Courts are starting to use it now. If you have someone who is an insanity defense, courts can now use telepsych for those evaluations instead of having to pay, the county having to pay 2 psychologists and a psychiatrist to come from out of county and do those evaluations for the court. So it's becoming quite commonplace.
As far as I know, we're the only county in the state that got that even applied, so we're happy with that. So, yeah.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to
Well, it's my pleasure.
bring me up to a little more speed. I did. It's all good. She's answered all my questions. So, what are you after? What are we after today? I mean, just an informational session.
Between now and the next couple of months, we're going to need a contract signed and in place, okay, so that we can start the training process. We're going to want to get in here and train your officers beforehand. Certainly I need some time to work with your nurses to find out their needs, and then we'll send, January 1st we'll send a team in, and that team will take a look at, there'll be someone going through the MARS to see what kind of medications are being prescribed right now. You know, there'll be someone coming in to make sure all the physicals are up to date. You know, we'll bring a team in, and by the time we leave at the end of the first week, you should be 100% in compliance with Indiana jail standards. And I'm not saying you aren't now, you may very well be right now, I have no way of knowing that. But you definitely will be by the end of the first week.
If and when you use outdoor services, do you have a intent to go to particular services? I mean, is your intent to use local as much as possible?
Yes. Here's my thought on that. I think it would be hard. I think the sheriff would be hard pressed to defend a lawsuit if someone were to die in an ambulance. How could you say, I drove past this hospital to get to this hospital? Right. So our intent is always to get care or aid at the very closest facility.
Okay. I didn't know whether you actually had contracts with
your
particular
hospital,
outside services or not.
No, hospitals don't like us. They don't, because we renegotiate those bills down, and they're not getting the money that they've gotten in the past. So generally
they don't like us either. So
a couple of months into each contract, usually the sheriff will call me and say, hey, I need you to come to a meeting with the powers that be at the hospital, and we have to sit down and talk about it. Because the law is written with very specific language, but hospitals choose to omit one word of that language, and we remind them that word is there, and so they don't like us very well. But it saves you about 20%. So,
but it sounds like similar to our health insurance plan for the employees. I mean,
and also, our hospital just announced they're going to have a detox unit. Multiple bed. remember how many
40
beds.
46 bed unit.
46 bed unit up there, so I'm sure we'll
Wow.
be working
HIV
with it.
and detox.
Wow, that's great,
Yeah,
that's great.
that's really the biggest
Got a
missing
lovely
component
grant
locally.
from the state of health, Indiana State Department of Health.
That's
Okay.
wonderful.
Our insurance is reference-based reimbursement. Is that basically along the line of what you're talking about?
Yes, pretty much. We're gonna, we don't require any hospitals to go through any kind of like pre-authorization or anything, but we're gonna be on the phone with them often enough. For example, one of the biggest problems we run into is if an officer's at the scene of an accident and they're not sure if someone is fit for custody, fit for incarceration, you know, do they have wounds or some ailment that needs to be handled before, because the last thing you want to do is book them into the jail and have a bad outcome once they get into the jail. So many times we'll say, you know, this person needs to be cleared for incarceration, so they'll have to go to the hospital before they're actually ever booked into your facility. That can sometimes cause a little bit of angst with city departments or state departments because they're having to spend the time to take this person for medical clearance before the sheriff accepts them in his jail, but it's to protect the county.
It already has.
Yeah.
Zach's changed the commitment to where there's now 7 questions that they have to answer before we'll accept them. And that's, you know, where they Narcaned, we were having some issues where they were being Narcaned then brought to jail. We had a lady went in labor within a few hours of being in jail, so we've changed it. It's pretty restrictive, and it does upset some of the officers. Nobody wants to sit at the hospital for hours on end, but that's all to protect us and just another layer of protection from them as well.
And correct me if I'm wrong, they're not the responsibility of the county until they're
Exactly right.
booked in.
That's right.
That's correct. That is the common practice in the state of Indiana. It's never been tested in court. I'm not sure how that will work out. But as of right now, that is actually correct. Most hospitals have charity care. So if it is someone pre-booking and they don't have insurance or anything, the hospitals will usually write that off to charity care.
So your timetable-wise, you're thinking that maybe by our first meeting in November, we need to be ready to sign a contract so that you've got November and December for training, or?
I think that would be terrific. If it doesn't happen until December, I'm still okay with that. December gets a little trickier because you have a lot of officers off during the holidays, and you run into that December, these officers have all of this training they have to get done by the end of the year, and so then they get busy with other trainings and they don't have as much time for us. So the earlier the better. Now, we're not going to want to come in and do training with your officers in November and expect them to retain that until January. But we would have initial meetings and then we would come back and do training around the time of us taking over the contract.
And we got a lot of stuff still to work out, logistics with just us and how.
Okay, so you're not ready for a contract to come to us yet?
Oh, no, the quicker we get the contract in place, I think we're good, because the contract gets us going to where we can start working out how we're going to.
And really a vote of confidence is sufficient for me to get started if that's.
Well, I guess I would like to run the contract past our attorney, me personally.
Of course.
That would be my opinion, and have him look at how can we sign a multi-year contract and still protect the
Sure.
county?
Yeah.
If for some reason funding doesn't come through, so on and
There's
so
a
forth.
30-day out in your clause. Either side can cancel the contract with 30 days written notice. So if the contract doesn't get funded for the future year, send a letter and that's all it's required to
Okay.
do.
So that
That's
sounds
really-
simple.
Yeah, that's really a requirement for almost all government contracts.
And it may have already been discussed, so I apologize. Is there a cap in the contract on the amount of inmates?
No, no. We don't do per diems because of the very thought that everybody needs to know what their budget is. So our only real competitor has a per diem. So if your population goes up X number of inmates, then you pay X number of dollars per day per inmate that it goes up. So then every month you're getting a different amount on your bill. And when I was doing budgets for Delaware County, I hated that. I wanted to know what my bills were each month so I could plan accordingly. So I've never done a per diem. I don't think it's, as long as we're managing your pharmacy and your med supplies correctly, and we still only have 40 hours of nursing, my cost shouldn't change that much that I need to do a per diem. What I will ask the sheriff is just an agreement. You know, you build a new jail and you're gonna house another 300 inmates, of course, we're gonna need to renegotiate that contract. You know, if your
Don't worry about
population.
that.
Yeah, I don't think you'll have to worry about that here.
If your population, you decide to double bunk, you know, the back room and add 50 more inmates, and you have 100, you know, you're at 50% more inmates, then the sheriff, you know, but we'll have, in time, that kind of relationship where we can just have those conversations. And
Well, that
we'll
brings
adjust.
a question in my mind, I guess, then. If we don't look to add inmates, but we add a facility, or we, to decrease our population being housed in one spot, if we add another building, there's been some talk about possibly purchasing a building that's close to the jail to possibly house our female inmates. Would that change anything if we had a building? It's within walking, I mean.
No. We do that in a couple of other counties already. They have a couple of different buildings, and basically we either split the nursing staff, you know, depending on how many inmates you have in each. It's, you know, basic numbers. 80% of your inmates here and 20% there. We're going to split your nursing staff 80-20. And then if that off-site, that second site, if it doesn't have the nurses often, they know they have to call the jail, and that nurse has to be available to run down and help if they need help. As far as med carts and all those kinds of things, you know, our pharmacy provides those at no charge to the county, so there shouldn't be any expense there as well.
I guess that any equipment that's not already in the jail under the contract you'll provide then?
Not equipment. We'll provide one-time use supplies, but any equipment that you want to have purchased. Now, all of our nurses and our doctors are going to have, you know, blood pressure cuffs, stethoscopes, those kinds of things. But let's say you wanted a mobile x-ray machine, that's something you would provide, not something we would provide.
Okay, then you said that x-rays and whatnot are done in-house?
Yes, but that's by a service that comes in and does them. We don't
Okay.
have a machine in your building. They come in with a mobile x-ray unit.
There'll be a mobile unit. And is dental under this contract or not under this contract?
It is not. I was just talking to the sheriff about this morning, that you have a dentist apparently is retiring or something. So we have access to a dentist that travels, that just hired, he's getting a little older and trying to cut back on his work a little bit, so he just hired 2 new dentists to join his practice. They're traveling also, that I'm sure would be thrilled to come into your facility if you wanted them to. So we can help arrange that, but
But those fees will be above and beyond?
those would be just like any other off-site bill, hospital bill or something.
Okay.
We could pay them out of your pool if you prefer, until your pool is used up.
15.
Yeah, or we can exclude those completely and then come right back to you, which is probably the smarter way to do it because your pool is not very good.
Now, these contracts, the multi-year contract, you said that you'd basically lock in the same price. Well, but that pool, will we leave that open for negotiations each year as that maybe that pool grows or shrinks?
I mean, I have no problem with it.
Or how do you work that pool?
You know, the contract is your lawyer and my lawyer, and basically I pay my lawyer, so I say this is what I want you to make happen, and he's terrific and he finds a way to make it happen. So I don't get into the legalities of that very often, but I've never not been able to accomplish something I've been asked to accomplish.
Okay. I mean, I didn't know whether the 18,000 that you come up with that by our past history, or whether that's just a number that you use, or I just didn't know whether you
No,
had.
it's based on other jails your size.
Okay.
It's historical data for the last 6 years on jails comparable in your size.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, like I said, for one, I'd like for us to be able to talk with Colin a little more on the contract, and I personally think it makes sense to at least go 1 year into a new sheriff, so they have an opportunity to see the service.
Well, let's not necessarily say a new sheriff.
That's right.
But you know what I'm saying. Potential.
No, I'm teasing, I'm joking.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean it that way.
See how you really feel.
1 year, 1 year into the next term of.
There you go.
Next term.
Yeah, next
term, that's right.
But I just, if someone doesn't have a chance, I mean, if it does change,
Right.
if they don't have a chance to work with them, how can they make a good judgment of?
And I had said that when I came, because I do think it's something
nobody wants to go, well, I had this other company, or I knew somebody else, or I had this team of nurses I was bringing in. I didn't want to burden that next person with it. Now, 54 other counties, all the sheriffs I've talked to speak glowingly of them. I don't think anybody else would be, I think it'd be very prudent for them to do that.
I
But
think, how many new sheriffs were there in the last term? Like, I don't know, 53 new sheriffs across the state, something like that. And we did not lose one contract.
Okay.
So,
That says something.
yeah.
That's a big statement
We
right
just
there.
need to, we need to reach out always, and I always go to the new sheriff's school and start my relationships with them there. And as far as accessibility goes, as I said, I own the company, and I'm an hour and 20 minutes from you guys. So we are the only Indiana-based company that does this, and we understand the importance of keeping your tax dollars local, and I'm accessible.
communication is in Europe, and I emailed her, and she emailed me back within like 5 minutes. She's like, well, I'm on vacation, I'll get back. Well, that's pretty impressive.
The time change was a kind of embarrassing. Sorry, time change, but that's okay.
You just made the statement that you're the only Indiana-based company. There are other companies out there doing basically the same.
Yes, there's one in Peoria, Illinois. That's one of our major competitors. They are in multiple states. We only do Indiana. And then there is one out of Nashville, Tennessee. And those are the other two companies that are in the state of Indiana. We have 54 counties. I think our closest major competitor has about 20. The other one has just 5 or 6. And the rest of the counties are still local doctors, local nurses, that kind of thing.
We contracted with, not during my time, we contracted with another agency at one time
When I was
right.
commissioner.
We didn't continue that for
No, it was
whatever
under me.
reasons. Yeah.
It was under.
Yeah, wasn't it? Yeah.
I didn't want to say that. Not to anything to his.
We even had it, if I recall, Frank, didn't we even have a dental service that come in too?
We had a dental service came in, but it wasn't part of the contract.
No, it was a separate
Yes.
deal.
It was a traveling dentist.
Yeah. What become of that after I was gone?
I think it's the same guy. I think it's the guy's getting ready to
There's
retire.
What's your doctor's name?
Dr. Will Hare, is that who you had before?
Yeah.
He just retired.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
he
we
had-
have been using.
Yeah.
And he
We
brought
don't-
his own X-ray in
Yeah.
and.
Yeah.
We don't use him. He's reached out to me many, many times for many years, wanting to contract with us, but he's a lot more expensive than the dentist that we use. And,
Oh, okay.
So basically what he had a minimum to walk through your door. And so if he was there an hour or 5 hours, his minimum grew to about $1,800 to walk through your door. And small jails just can't afford that, where our other dentist charges you an hourly rate. If he's there an hour, you only pay for 1 hour.
I see. Okay.
So, but Dr. Wilhare, I did see him at the summer conference, and he was going to have both knees replaced in early fall. Said he'd be off about 6 weeks, and he'd be right back at it. But then last week I heard that he's decided to go ahead and fully retire, so.
Okay. All right. All right. I greatly appreciate it.
That's my pleasure.
You provide mental health
Yes,
service.
Yes.
And that's something that we
yes.
have been short on, and appreciate that.
Yes, we really believe that that's the key to all of this, mental health and addiction services. We do, we have facilitators that can do group therapy, MRT therapy. It is the therapy used in the DOC and by community corrections. So if you wanted to do something like that, basically it's teaching these people to make better moral decisions in their life. And it's a great program. It's 16 modules. But the good thing about it is it's set up for the inmates to succeed. In the past, you get someone in module 4 or 5, and they get sent to community corrections for house arrest, or they get sent to the DOC for prison. Then all that's just wasted. This program follows them. So when they get to the DOC or they get to community corrections, they can pick up exactly where they left off. So the likelihood of actually completing all 16 modules and graduating successfully is much greater. So that's one of the mental health services that we offer that we're really proud of.
Very good.
Thank you so
very
much.
much.
Thank you for your time.
We need to have you to get a copy of the contract so we can give it to our lawyer to.
Yes, you have it? Yes.
Okay.
I have a
Get
copy
it to
here.
Colin so he can check it out.
Can we just give you this print? I brought a printed copy. Would you like it?
Yes.
That'd be great. Probably can get to
And
To
then
the
our,
attorney.
yes, and if the attorney has any questions at all, I can put him in contact with our attorney. And as I said, that's a draft. We're completely open to modifying it until both parties are completely satisfied.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Mhm. Thank you very much. Sure, yeah, no, whatever. Thank you for your time.
Thanks.
Thanks, Joey.
Thanks, guys. See you time. See you.
Sure.
Back for a lot of stuff.
You're always wanting the money.
Who was the other guy that was with you?
He's one of the nurses. Yeah, David
Hornsby.
Hornsby. He's trying to, how long's he been over there?
He was there when I was there.
Was he?
Yeah.
I didn't remember him being over there. Because Jennifer was Jennifer Counselor was the head nurse, wasn't she?
Yes.
When you were,
Yes.
yeah. So you say, Dale, that you have funded this contract? The council, if the council adopts the budget, it's in there to fully fund that contract? Okay.
Yeah. My greatest fear is, I mean, if there was a guarantee that this contract, $165,000 a year for medical care, would totally cap our medical liability at the jail, I would be okay with that. That she doesn't seem to be making that guarantee. But I know that there's other services that she's providing that is going to help the sheriff satisfy the wants of the
DOC.
DOC and the jail inspector. So that, there's a certain value there. There's also a clause in this contract that says if I don't know if I can find it real quick. It says that if QCC finds ways to reduce medical costs at the jail by a certain amount, that a percentage of that money would be returned to the county, but it doesn't specify what the percentage is. I didn't want to press her on those details. I guess Colin.
That's the things we negotiate between our lawyer and her lawyer.
Yeah, that'd be Colin's job to get into those things.
Dale, in that contract, wasn't there a clause about a cap at the maximum jail capacity?
Yeah, I remember seeing some wording about that, but glancing here this morning, Frank, I haven't found it.
That's the reason. At least the original copy, they may have, he and she may have since negotiated something.
Well, do we want to keep that pool in our pocket?
Well, right here it says, should QCC find additional opportunities to save money, QCC pledges to return a percentage of that savings to Fayette County upon conclusion of the annual cost analysis process. I think I understand her business model. She has looked at our numbers and she knows what it's costing us to provide medical services over there.
Mm-hmm.
So she's submitted this contract proposal for $30,000 or $40,000 above our average cost, and she's betting on her skill and ability to whittle these actual bills down. The more she can whittle the bills down through negotiation with the doctors and hospitals, then that
More than make.
yeah, exactly, the more she makes. So she could potentially do very well, depending on her skill in negotiating doctor bills and that sort of thing. I don't begrudge her a profit. My interest is putting some sort of cap on our medical expenses over there, if that's possible. I'd like to get our medical expenses down to $50,000 a year that The only way you're gonna do that is get your population down, about 50%, you know? This is just a bad situation. There's no way to win at it.
Well, it's a no-win. It's one of the situations of
Yeah.
county government. I mean, it's just like the judicial budgets, you know.
We have no control.
Who knows how many cases are gonna be every year?
I don't know, it's that sticky thing on the end of your finger you just can't flip off. It's frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
And now tonight, Paul Freed is going to be back in here wanting more money for attorneys. And we just gave him another $15,000 here a while back, didn't we, Frank? Now he's going to be back tonight wanting another $10,000 for attorneys in his court.
Everything goes back to the jail population. Number of probation officers,
Yeah.
the caseload in the courts, amount of attorneys to represent them, the cost of food, medical care, everything goes back to the population. And as she said, we're not the only jail in this situation.
That's faced with it.
I'm sorry.
We're not the only jail that's
No.
faced with it.
No.
The only county. No, we're not a lone ranger out here. I mean, Rush County's having the same problem, as small a county as they are, population-wise.
Have they begun construction on their jail?
No, they haven't even back to bids yet.
Oh.
I'll tell you how these people, this reminds me of a story I heard just past week. And how we get played on these matters. Jane will appreciate this. I was down at Jughead Jaws last Thursday, and they was telling me about somebody in the neighborhood down there that got into some sort of trouble and was going to be doing some jail time. And they said that they hoped they could stay in jail long enough to get their teeth fixed.
Yeah.
Now, you know, every one of these people out here know. They know that if they get in jail, then they can get their health maintenance done for free. And some of them actually plan this out.
Vacation time.
But this, and I'm sure Joey has continued the policy that I did and others have. You're morally and ethically and legally required to make sure that an inmate that comes into jail, that his or her condition doesn't deteriorate. When it comes to teeth, we did extractions only. Nothing whatsoever cosmetic, no dentures or anything like that.
You wanted the cavity filled? Then you take the tooth out.
then it would have been up to the family and or the inmate to provide payment to a dentist that we would transport them to. So a lot of people are under the impression they're going to get premium care, but they're not. They're going to get basic, other than providing.
And the sad part about it is the basic costs are outlandish.
Yes.
I mean, that's what we're faced with, is the basic costs, and they're unaffordable. You know. Well, I'd make a motion that we recess until 1 for our work session then.
No,
If there's
second.
any further.
Okay. All in favor, aye.
Aye.